These are just some of the major moments from the testimony of the lead detective in Melly's double murder trial.
The Miramar Police Department has announced that they are investigating a complaint lodged by YNW Melly's mother's attorney against the primary detective involved in the rapper's double homicide case. Stuart Adelstein, the legal representative for the rapper, submitted a Brady motion on Wednesday, demanding that the prosecution disclose any evidence that could exonerate the defendant. In the legal filing, Adelstein stated, "We have recently discovered that Detective M. Moretti, the lead investigator in this case, is the subject of an inquiry. An assistant state attorney has provided a statement regarding an incident where Detective Moretti allegedly used excessive force against a potential witness related to this case."
One of the things, Bobby, that was interesting to me is the fact that Detective Moretti was asked about so-called satchel man purses that both Bortlen and YNW Melly were carrying when they left the recording studio that night before the homicides were committed. And Detective Moretti was asked about these man purse / satchels. So let's listen.
Were any man purses, satchels found in that gray Jeep?
No, ma'am.
Specifically, the beige one that's pictured at 21840.
No, ma'am, we did not recover that.
Continuing forward to 21905. Was a black satchel recovered?
No, ma'am.
Specifically the one that is seen in the individual in the black and white jacket?
Correct.
Did Mr. Henry have possession of either of those satchels or man purses at the hospital?
No, ma'am.
Information regarding the specific incident was not immediately disclosed. The Miramar police informed NBC6 that they had received the complaint from Jamie King's attorney, who is YNW Melly's mother, and were actively examining the matter.
Melly's mom, Jamie King, is also mentioned in these arguments. SAC was none too happy with her in the months before the homicides.
They also noted that Moretti, who has served for 20 years, has never previously been the subject of any administrative investigation.
Detective Mark Moretti is the state's final witness in YNW Melly's murder trial. He spent hours testifying about things that he found as he investigated the murders of Chris Thomas Jr., who went by YNW Juvie, and Anthony Williams, who went by YNW Sack Chaser. Some of the testimony focused on money, text messages, and arguments between YNW members, particularly Sack and Melly.
This legal twist adds another layer to the already complex case against YNW Melly, who was arrested on February 13th, 2019. Charged with 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, the charges are connected to the October 2018 deaths of his close friends and fellow YNW associates, Anthony DeAndre Williams, known as YNW Sack Chaser, and Christopher Thomas Jr., known as YNW Juvie.
Jurors hear from YNW Melly and the 2 friends he's accused of killing.
So for the state of Florida, it's a case nearly 5 years in the making, with Jamel Demmons, better known as YNW Melly, now charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. His co-defendant, 22-year-old Cortland Henry, otherwise known as YNW Bortlen, faces the same charges. Demmons and Henry are charged with killing their friends and co-members of their YNW collective, 19-year-old Christopher Thomas, also known as YNW Juvie, and 21-year-old Anthony Williams, who went by YNW Sack Chaser.
The authorities contend that Melly, along with fellow YNW rapper Cortland Malik Henry, known as YNW Bortlen, plotted to stage the double murder, making it look like a drive-by shooting. According to the prosecution, the duo parked and exited the car, then shot back into the vehicle staging the killings. Henry then drove the victims to Memorial Hospital in Miramar, where they were pronounced dead. Facing 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder, Melly could be sentenced to life imprisonment without paroles, or even the death penalty if convicted.
So the big point here is the fact that they leave the studio with man purses, and then Bortlen arrives at the hospital in a frenzy with his 2 dead friends in the car. They seize the car, no man purses. How significant do you see that?
Well, I mean, in a case like this, where the allegation is they carried out the murder with guns can fit into those satchels very well, and then they're gone, and then the guns are gone, and we can't find the guns, right? So this is a very this is a way of the prosecution explaining where the guns were, what happened to them. Clearly, Melly's not there. Bortlen arrives. It's worse for Bortlen because he has it in his possession. You can see it physically on the tape. And then, if his story is to be believed, he gets in that vehicle with the 2 victims, and then they're shot. and then he goes to the hospital. So there's no intervening stop that he makes. There's no intervening thing that would remove that satchel from him. Melly, we don't see at the hospital, so we don't know where and when his story alters from that. But Bortlen's, his story is, I got into the car, we were driving, this drive-by happens, and then I go to the hospital. So that satchel that you see him with in that video should be on him or in that car. And so, you know, that's where it gets interesting. And clearly the implication by the prosecution is, you know, they were carrying their weapons in those satchels. You know, when Melly got out of the car and left, he took both of them with him. I assume that's what they're going to allege in their closing arguments.
The capital punishment situation has been a significant aspect of the legal proceedings. Initially eligible for the death penalty, a decision was made to remove it, only to be overruled by an appellate judge. Attempts to appeal this decision to the Supreme Court of Florida were unsuccessful, leaving Melly eligible for capital punishment if convicted. In a heartfelt Instagram post announcing his decision to turn himself in, Melly stated, "A couple of months ago I lost my 2 brothers by violence, and now the system wants to find justice. Unfortunately, a lot of rumours and lies are being said, but no worries. God is with me and my brother Bortlen, and we want y'all to remember it's a YNW family. I love you." The case further deepened when Complex reported that Melly and Henry were also suspects in the fatal 2017 shooting of an off-duty Indian River County Sheriff's Department deputy. Melly's legal team has been vigorously defending him, including pleading not guilty to the double murder charges, appealing decisions related to capital punishment, and submitting a speedy trial request. Melly's double murder trial has faced several delays. Initially set for March 7, 2022, it was postponed to May 23, 2022, and then to June 6, 2022. A speedy trial request was submitted on May 26, 2022, requiring the trial to commence within the next 175 days. The trial began on June 12, 2023, after several delays. The prosecution presented forensic and video evidence to support their case. Surveillance footage showed Melly taking the seat inside the car, from which experts determined the shots were fired. The prosecution alleged that Melly and Henry staged the killings by parking and exiting the car, then shooting back into the vehicle. They were accused of making it appear as a drive-by shooting. Melly pleaded not guilty to the double murder charges. The jury deliberated for 14 hours over 3 days and struggled to reach a unanimous verdict. The judge even gave them an Allen charge, a direction urging them to try to come to a unanimous conclusion. A mistrial was declared on July 22, 2023. As the jury could not come to a unanimous decision, a mistrial means that the trial did not result in a conviction or acquittal. Melly remains in custody, awaiting a retrial, and a new trial date has been set for October 2, 2023. As the case unfolded, Bortlen's role shifted from co-defendant to potential informant, implicating Melly in the process. The state of Florida's case was building. In this complex tale of friendship and betrayal, the truth remains elusive, leaving many to wonder what really happened on that fateful night. As the investigation into the double homicide involving YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen deepened, inconsistencies began to surface. Bortlen's story shifted, his memory of the night's events becoming surprisingly vivid despite his initial claim of trying to hide and escape the chaos. Such contradictions led some to question his honesty, though no judgments were being officially made. Before his arrest, Bortlen took to Instagram Live, repeatedly asserting his and Melly's innocence. Though Melly was believed to be in the room, he remained off camera. Bortlen's insistence on their innocence, even posting it in the live comments, seemed to be a desperate attempt to control the narrative. The police interrogation at the hospital further complicated matters. When asked by Detective Ashton if he had recently fired a gun, Bortlen's denial was met with skepticism, causing him to become defensive. The detectives reassured him, but his concern was understandable given the gravity of the situation and the swirling rumours, including a claim by Juvie's father that Melly had killed the rappers for money. The case was fraught with tension and uncertainty, and Bortlen's lack of a share in the $500,000 the rappers were to split only added to the complexity. In a story filled with twists and turns, the truth remained elusive. The investigation into the double homicide involving YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen took a dramatic turn when detectives schooled Bortlen on self-defense. Despite the detective's explanation that shooting back in self-defense wasn't a crime, Bortlen insisted he hadn't touched a gun that day. The forensic team decided to test Bortlen's claim by examining his fingers for gunpowder residue. They found at least 1% of gunpowder residue, a discovery made possible by the presence of antimony, a rare element in ammunition. When a gun is fired, a cloud of fine particles covers the shooter's hands, potentially serving as crucial evidence. On July 1st, Bortlen appeared in court but did not yet speak against Melly. Under house arrest due to a lack of extensive criminal history, unlike Melly, Bortlen sought to change the conditions of his confinement, requesting permission to attend church and travel for shows. The judge, however, refused. Throughout the proceedings, Melly's lawyer has maintained that Bortlen's history of deception disqualifies him from testifying against Melly. The case continues to unfold, with the truth tangled in a web of lies and legal maneuvering.